There's a mistake that I see even experienced brokers make, and it's costing them a lot of leads and they don't even know it. Hey, I'm Scott Peckford. This is the Out of Mortgage Brokering Podcast. And every week I bring you a short episode with a tactic or tool or idea to help you. This week, I'm going to talk about something that I've seen happen consistently with experienced as well as rookie and less experienced mortgage brokers. And it's a mistake that is very expensive, but it's also very easy to fix. And before I jump into that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ownwell. Ownwell is an amazing tool for Canadian mortgage brokers. It lets borrowers to monitor their home equity and buying power on a monthly basis. It sends out these amazing reports and allows brokers to create conversations around what to do with that equity, what to do with that mortgage. It's absolutely amazing. Check it out at ownwell.ca/Scott. So let's jump into it. So I want to ask you a question here that I've asked this when I've spoken in front of mortgage brokers. And I would say typically 80% of the audience will put their hand up to this question. The question is, have you ever had a client ask permission to refer you? And when I ask this question, usually the people that don't is because they're brand new. But anybody who's been doing this business for any amount of time, and be honest, think about it. As a client said, hey, is it okay if I refer my sister to you? Is it okay if I refer my cousin or my friend? The reason they're asking your permission is because you don't ask enough. And that is the mistake I see brokers making. I'll tell you another quick story. I was talking to I was in a coaching session with one of our rookies this last week, and he told me he got 5 referrals. And I said, amazing. And I know this guy is a beast at asking for business. I said, how did you ask for them every time? He said, yes. And I said, if you didn't ask, how many of them would you have gotten? He said, 2 of them were prompted by the referral partner, by the realtor. 3 of them were prompted by me asking. So him asking for the referral, he said, you know what, Tom, actually, I do have somebody, but it didn't come to mind without the ask. So instead of 2 referrals, he's a newer broker, he's very motivated, but instead of 2 referrals, he got 5. So that's more than a double the number of opportunities because he simply asked. And experienced brokers, here's the mistake we make. We assume, because we are self-employed, we assume people understand the value, the importance of referrals. Most of them don't. If they're employees, they go to work, they do their job, they're grateful for the work you do. They may say, oh my gosh, I'll definitely, leave you a review. A lot of them don't, let's be honest, just because it's human nature. It's not because they don't care. And they will forget to refer, even if they say they will. And this is why you have to plant the seed. One of the things that when I was brokering that I was very good at is I asked all the time. And what it was to me, I thought of it like planting seeds. And I would plant seeds. And I didn't know which ones were going to pop, didn't really care, but I asked and asked. And so I want to share with you some frameworks to think about when it comes to asking for business, because I call it building your ask muscle. My youngest daughter is very good at this, and I joke with her all the time. She'll ask me for things, and sometimes I could get frustrated. I'm like, why is she asking for this? But then I'll say to her, I'll say, Jaya, listen, the thing that I'm so grateful that you always ask. I'm not always going to say yes, but because you ask more often, you get more than most people will get. And this is true with referrals. It's true with your kids. It's true if you have people asking permission to refer you. You definitely are not asking enough. So there's what I call the broad ask and the narrow ask. There's something called the hard ask versus soft ask. And then there's also some high leverage times to do it. And I'm going to just break those things down for you in this short episode. Okay, so the broad ask for the narrow ask. So one of the things that we coach brokers to do is, have this great conversation, a business building conversation. Think of like a listing presentation that they do with we call it a 4-slide, they do with their realtor partner or financial planner or accountant, whatever. And at the end, once they build up this trust and rapport, once they've got there's a way to also stack in a bunch of micro commitments, which is like leaning in little mini yeses. And at the end of that, a broad ask question would be, hey, based on what we shared, is there anyone you're working with right now that could use my help? That's a broad ask. Anyone is a very broad ask. And what happens a lot of times is, especially if you're talking, let's just use as a realtor as an example so that I can make this really practical for you. If it's a realtor, they may in their mind go, no, I don't have anybody that's not already pre-approved. So I don't have anybody right now. So then that's the broad ask. The narrow ask is if they say that, they say, you know what, Scott, it was great to meet you. Definitely, I'm looking forward to working with you, but I don't have anybody right now. Then your follow-up, instead, you could just say thank you, which is great. Okay, yeah, me too, I'm excited. But what I would suggest you do is actually make the ask more narrow and you will get business. The narrow ask after that sounds like this. So you do the broad ask, anyone? They say, you know what, Scott? No, I don't have it. I can't think of anybody at the moment. The narrow ask is, hey, listen, even if they're already pre-approved with someone else, I'd be happy to see if I can help them get more money. So that's a narrow ask. And so I said to you, tell me a funny story. Let me illustrate this for you in a way that you can kind of make sense. If I said, tell me a funny story, most people are going to get stumped. And I said, come on, where's your funny story? And I push you, you'd probably struggle unless you stand up or you're really in the comedy. But if I said to you, who's your funniest friend from high school? Right? Tell me a funny story is broad. It's and most people can't do that. But if I said, who's the funniest person that you hung out with in high school? You'd instantly go, oh my gosh, it's this person, right? Kevin was hilarious. And you can picture it in your mind. And so by going broad first, so this broad ask of anyone, and then the narrower ask of if they've already been pre-approved, that you're actually giving them something to think about it. Because in their mind, here's what's happening. In their mind, if you've got a good rapport with them, the realtor's like, well, I got somebody, but they're already pre-approved. Yeah, but they're not pre-approved by me. And so often when I say this, hey, even if they're already pre-approved somewhere else, I'd be happy to see if I can get them more money. I don't say I'd be happy to see if I can get them a lower rate, because I'm not selling lowest rate, because maybe I do have the lowest rate, but that's not how I want to lead the conversation. And I don't want to start the conversation that way. But getting more money, is often a better opportunity for a broker. So that's the first, a broad versus a narrow ask. A hard versus soft ask. The hard ask is, who are you working with right now? Could use my help. It's direct. It's concrete. You're asking specifically who they can help. And there's times to use both. And then a soft ask, what that looks like is, hey, if you ever come across anyone who could use my help, I'd be happy to help. I'd be happy to help them. So it's not specific. It's not so direct where they have to say yes or no. And it's more of a planting seed. And I would switch between the two. And so a hard ask is very specific. Here's what I'm looking for. And a softer ask would be, and a soft ask I used to do all the time. I'd be talking to clients and they'd be, hey, Scott, this was great. Yeah. Hey, man, no problem at all. If there's anybody that that could use my help, please connect me with them. I'd love to work with them. That's all I'd say. I would just make it it's a soft ask, but I would ask that over and over and over again all the time, and just planting seeds. And so that difference between a hard ask and a soft ask is you can still ask without it being so direct. And it's just a little less direct. And then finally, high leverage times that you can ask for business when the mortgage is approved. So that's the first one. Obviously, when that mortgage first is approved. Now, we all know most of the time when it's approved, unless you're absolutely killer at this, there's probably still some more work to do. There may be an appraisal required. Maybe you need to get an updated pay stub. So it's not done, but in their mind. And so at that point, mortgage is approved. You reach out to the client. Hey, just let you know, mortgage is conditionally approved. We've got a couple more things to get done. And the client, in most cases, that's a high point of the experience. That's a great time to ask, hey, you know what? I've really enjoyed working with you. If there's anyone else like yourself, anybody and the other way you can go narrow in your ask is you can say, if there's anybody you work with. So you can also, you're talking to this person, maybe they work at a hospital or something, or work in healthcare. Hey, if there's anybody you're working with at your work that could use my help, I'd absolutely love to work with them. By saying that, what you're doing is you're painting a picture in their mind of someone versus, again, the broad thing. And I often find I will switch that up. Sometimes it could be, if there's anyone at your work that could use our help. If you got any family members, cousins, uncles, twice removed, I'd be happy to help them too. Again, I make a little joke out of it. The whole idea is to get them thinking about people outside of, because again, it's very difficult to say, tell me a funny story versus tell me a funny story about a friend from high school that was hilarious. It's specific, and people's brains can actually work with it. And so approval's another time you can do it. When documents get signed, often there's approval and there's document signing. You can ask when the client says thank you. So anytime there's a high point, you solve a problem. Clients like, oh my gosh, thanks, Scott. This has been amazing. Hey, no problem at all. You know what? This is the kind of service that we provide all our clients. Hey, I got to ask if there's anybody any friends, family members that could use our help. We would absolutely love for you to introduce us. Best way to do that is send them by email, and we'll take care of everything. And so you can give them some more specific guidance. So that's basically the three. This is a brief training on asking that I have found that most brokers don't do a great job of asking. And so just apply this. So think about the broad ask versus the narrow ask, and think about hard versus soft. So you can switch those in there. Think about the high leverage times, approval, signing. Anytime they're happy or they say thank you. And then I'll give you one other, just a bonus tip, is a mistake I see brokers make is they'll talk to a realtor or a referral partner, and they'll say, oh, Scott, it was amazing, man. You know what? I handed out your name to a friend. They're going to be reaching out to you. And most of the time, brokers say, oh, awesome, thanks, real appreciate it. That's a mistake. Don't do that. What you do instead is say, hey, you know what? Thank you so much. So let's pretend the guy's name is Bill. Hey, Bill, thanks so much. What are their first names, just so I can look out for them when they reach out to me? The reason I want to ask for their first names is that it makes a commitment from, I want to know who they are. And that way, in 2 or 3 days, if I don't hear from them, I can reach back out to Bill and say, hey, Bill, I haven't heard from, Kevin and Sally yet. I'm just wondering if you'd like, I'd be happy to connect with them. Give me their contact info. The other thing you can do, again, this would be a more hard ask, and I've seen brokers do this, and this can work. So they say to you, hey, I've given out your name to someone, it's Sally and Kevin and Sally. Awesome. And if they say to you, okay, I'm going to start that over again just to make it more clear. They say to you, hey, Scott, you know what? I gave out your name to someone. They're going to be reaching out. And I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Thanks so much. The realtor's Bill. Hey, Bill, thanks so much. What are their first names? Just so I can make sure that when they reach out that I can thank them. I can look out for them. And he's going to say their name. Hey, what is their email? And then you can ask, I've seen brokers do this. You can ask right after that. Hey, what is their email address or phone number? And I'm happy to connect with them. Sometimes the realtor will do it. Sometimes they won't. It's up to you. That's a more hard ask. So you're going to go from hey, names to hey, what's their email? I can connect with them via email to set up a call so they don't get lost, and I'll make sure they take care of them. Or you could say something like, hey, give me their contact information and I'll make sure they get a white glove experience. So again, you can, but for the one, you don't have to go that deep if you don't want to. Again, Canadians probably are like, oh, that doesn't sound polite. My American listeners, American front brokers are like, yeah, dude, if you're probably thinking, you don't ask for business. What's wrong with you? I think it's a Canadian thing, maybe a little bit. There's a joke I heard once. How do you make a Canadian say sorry? And the answer is you step on their foot. If you're standing in line at a grocery store or a coffee shop and you step on a Canadian's foot, they'll often say, I'm sorry. I don't know what it is. We just like to apologize for things. In any case, we're in a sales business. And unless you ask people for business, unless you plant seeds, they're not going to know. And the last thing I'll say on this whole topic is back to my point at the beginning. Most people that are employees that work at a 9-to-5 job, they don't realize, even though they know, they may say they know, but they don't realize how important referrals are to you. And unless you specifically ask, a lot of them won't do it and they won't remember to do it. And you need to plant seeds a ton. Hope you found that useful. Hey, I'm Scott Peckford. This is the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast. And one quick ask from you. If you want to get on my email list every week, I share 3 things to check out. I share 2 ideas things to copy, whether it's content or AI, and then 1 tactic. Go to my email, go to my social account, click on my link tree. You can get on my email list. Send me an email, scott@ilovemortgagebrokering.com, or message me on any social platforms and we'll get you on that list. It's a fantastic email that we put a lot of time into every week. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.